I never loved you. Those were not my husband's words. They came from my mother-in-law. She stood in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, looking at me like I was a stranger who didn't belong in her family. Then she smiled. A cold, satisfied smile. Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made. For a moment, the room went completely silent. My husband stood beside her without saying a single word. After 9 years of marriage, hundreds of shared memories, late-night conversations, birthdays, vacations, and promises, he simply looked at the floor. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. I felt my heart shatter, but I refused to let them see me cry. I slowly picked up my handbag and looked at the family photos hanging on the wall. Every smile suddenly felt fake. Every promise suddenly felt empty. I whispered, "If that's how you both feel, I'll leave." My mother-in-law laughed. "I knew you would finally understand your place." Those words stayed in my mind as I walked out of the house carrying nothing but a small suitcase. It started raining. I sat alone inside my car, staring at the front door where I had spent almost a decade building a life. I asked myself the same question over and over. How did everything end so quickly? But what I didn't know that day was that destiny had already prepared an answer. And 5 minutes later, everything they believed would change forever. I had barely driven 2 streets away when my phone started ringing. It was an unknown number. Normally I would have ignored it. But something told me to answer. "Hello?" A calm female voice replied. "Is this Emma?" "Yes. My name is Sarah. I'm your husband's lawyer." I froze. Before I could say anything, she continued. "He doesn't know I'm calling you. But there are documents you deserve to see." My hands tightened around the steering wheel. "What documents?" There was a long silence. Then she quietly said, "Your husband isn't leaving you because he stopped loving you. He is hiding something from everyone, including his mother." My heart started racing. Suddenly every strange conversation, every late meeting, every missing weekend made sense. The woman on the phone asked me to meet her immediately. I looked through the windshield as rain covered the glass. For the first time that day, I wasn't thinking about losing my marriage. I was thinking about discovering the truth. And somehow, I knew that the next few minutes would change every single life connected to that family. Sarah met me at a small coffee shop across town. Without saying much, she placed a folder on the table. Inside were financial records, property papers, and dozens of emails. Everything had one thing in common. My husband had secretly transferred almost every family asset into my name months earlier. I looked at her in complete shock. "This has to be a mistake." She shook her head. "No. He knew someone was manipulating him." Then she pointed to another document. It was signed by my mother-in-law. She had been trying to pressure him into ending our marriage so she could control the family business herself. Every cruel word she spoke to me had been part of a much bigger plan. I suddenly realized something. My husband wasn't protecting himself. He had been trying to protect me. But he never found the courage to tell me the truth. I drove back to the house immediately. This time I wasn't crying. I was calm. Confident. Certain. When I walked inside, my mother-in-law smiled proudly. "I thought you would come back begging." Instead, I quietly placed the folder on the table. Her smile disappeared. My husband slowly opened the documents. His hands started shaking. For the first time, he looked directly at his mother. "Is this true?" She couldn't answer. The silence revealed everything. Years of manipulation. Years of lies. Years of pretending to care while secretly planning to control everyone's future. The strongest woman in the room wasn't the one shouting. It was the one standing quietly with the truth. My husband finally spoke. "I'm sorry." Those 2 words carried years of regret. He admitted that fear had controlled every decision he made. Instead of trusting me, he tried to solve everything alone. And in doing so, he almost lost the person who had always stood beside him. My mother-in-law walked out of the room without saying another word. For the first time, nobody followed her. Nobody defended her. Nobody believed her. Months later, our lives looked completely different. Trust wasn't rebuilt overnight. It took honesty, patience, and difficult conversations. Some relationships ended forever. Others became stronger because the truth finally came out. Sometimes the loudest person in the room isn't the strongest. And sometimes the quiet person who walks away carries the greatest courage. My mother-in-law once said, "Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made." But 5 minutes later, the truth exposed every lie she had built her life upon. That day I learned a lesson I will never forget. People can hide the truth for years. But sooner or later, honesty always finds its way home.